Hey, thanks again for checking out the video today. As you can tell, there's a little bit of noise in the background. We're doing some big projects here at the high school. There's trucks and now building equipment getting delivered, all bunch of stuff. So apologies if you're hearing a little bit of beeping, a little bit of noise in the background. Before we get started today, huge thank you to everybody who's been signing up for camps. If you haven't done so already, make sure to click the link. Go check out one of our overnight camps. They're phenomenal. 4-day overnight camps for a really, really low price all around the East Coast. So make sure to check those out. All right, so in the discus, we always want to make sure that we are keeping the discus behind the hip. I hate the word drag, but you always want to make sure that the hips are leading the throw and that discus is coming from behind, almost like that discus is dragging behind the person who's throwing it. Well, one of the issues that we see with a lot of throwers is that when they turn out of the back of the circle, the discus is actually leading. The discus is in front of the hip. Now, this causes a huge amount of issues, but the number one issue is that they have to stop that discus in the middle to try to catch up again. And as soon as you stop that discus, what happens? Gravity starts pulling it down to the ground. They drop the discus, and a lot of times they end up scooping that discus or coming over the top, coming overhead. All right, so why does this happen? Well, biggest reason why this happens, and you gotta forgive me, you gotta pretend like I'm gonna be throwing it this way, so I'm facing you in the back of the circle. The biggest reason why this happens is that athletes are in the back of the circle, and what do? 5, 6, 11, 30 times they do this. They pull the discus back and go. Pull the discus back, go. They do about 25 or maybe even 75 of these warm-ups where they're pulling that discus back. But every time they pull the discus back, what do? They pull it back in front of the hip. They pull it back, push in front of the hip. Pull it back, push in front of the hip. And then when they get ready to go, what do you think the habit is that they've built? Well, now when they turn out of the back of the circle, they're gonna wait and push it in front of the hip, and they're gonna lead with the discus. So as coaches, how do we combat this? Well, the easiest way of doing it is to just pull the discus back once and then go. And you will always hear me tell my athletes this whenever they're in the circle: pull back once and go. So it takes a while to get used to, because again, they're just learning how to work with this discus. They're learning how to hold it. They're learning how to put their fingers over the top. They're learning to trust the discus. So when they get in the back of the circle, a lot of times they want to go back and forth 4 or 5 times to feel that force of the discus up against their fingertips. But once they've been doing it for a little while, say a week or two, then get in the circle, pull back once and go. They can go on the side of their body a couple times if they want to. They can go in front of their body once, but when they're ready to roll, pull back once, and then they can go. And they're going to be carrying that discus behind them the entire time. Now, this might be tough for the athletes to do because, again, it takes a lot of trust. A lot of athletes think if they stop moving their arm, that the discus is just going to fall out. They don't realize that when they move their body, their arm is actually moving with them. Their arm's a part of their body. So you don't have to be moving the arm if you're moving your entire body. Your arm is going to go with you. It's part of your body. So that's what we'll have them do as well, is when they're standing outside the circle, when they're flipping it up and down, and when they're catching it and doing all that stuff, we'll have them pull the discus back and then just little stutter steps, just to turn their body. Pull back, little stutter step, turn the body. You can do this when you're working with, say, mirror turns as well. You can pull back and then turn the body. And then they realize, wait a second, if I turn my body, the arm goes with it. I don't have to move my arm independent of my body. If I move my body, guess what? The arm will go as well.